A spinner fall for mayflies is probably one of the most magical times a fly fisher can be on the water. It's the very end of the mayfly life cycle. It's also the beginning of the mayfly cycle. However, to the fish, it's dinner time. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of dead mayflies floating on the water, and the dinner bell just went off. How do we fish this? Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mike, the old fish hobo. I'm here today to talk to you about spinner falls. Spinner falls. Spinner falls, an exciting time in fly fishing. It's when all the mayflies are dead, floating on the water. And they are mysterious to some degree because we don't always have them. Or we've heard about them and we know what time it's going to happen, and we get there and it doesn't happen. But spinner falls is the very end of the mayfly's life cycle, and they're dead and floating on the water. To really understand the strategy and how we're going to fish a spinner fall, first need to take a quick look at how a mayfly life cycle ends at the ends. And I'm not talking about mayfly nymphs crawling on the bottom. I'm talking about when they're hatching. So when a mayfly is emerging, it has to swim to the bottom of the river to swim to the surface to become a winged adult. And a lot's going on at the surface. There's emergers, there's breaking through the surface, there's floating. These are what we call semi-amagos, or duns, when they are floating on the water. They're just tooling down the river like that. These duns, these semi-amago duns, they have stomachs and mouths, but they're not sexually mature, and they cannot mate. What they have to do is they have to finish their metamorphosis. So when these guys emerge, they're not completed. So typically once a mayfly dun or semi-amago gets its wings to work on the water, it'll fly off the water and into the riparian zone, into the weeds, bushes and trees, and there it's going to molt and finish its metamorphosis. What I mean by molt is it's got to crawl out of its skin again, very similar to a rattlesnake crawling out of its skin. And when it does that, it comes out a whole different type of mayfly. It's what we call an imago, or what fly fishermen call a spinner. The difference between a spinner and a dun is a little bit in different colors of their bodies, and a spinner generally always has a clear wing, and a dun has a dark wing. At this point, once they've crawled out of their nymphal, their shucks or their bodies to become the spinner, now they can mate, and now they can lay eggs. They have no stomach, they have no mouths, but they have batteries. And what happens at this point, the males and females head out to the river or the stream, and they make big clouds, and what's happening up there is the female and males are mating. And once the male has mated with and found a female and mated, the batteries run out on that male, and it usually just snaps out and the lights go out. And usually they blow off the water. They're not even on the water. That leaves the now fertile spinner female ready to lay her eggs, at which point she'll return to the water and start tapping her abdomen on the water, releasing the eggs. And it takes about, I don't know, a thousandth of a second, just does this tapping, and she'll continue on tapping until the final egg is laid, where she'll die. And when she dies, her wings will just splay out like this, and she'll lay in the water, and her batteries are gone, and she's dead, laying on the river. Now there are two types of spinner falls. There's a light to medium, which is what we want, and a medium to heavy, which is what we don't want. We want a light to medium because it allows us to really pinpoint our dead mayfly or our spent mayfly right to the feeding trout. When we have these medium to heavy hatches, you're just tossing your spent spinner out with a billion others. So what we have going on here, we basically have two types of flies, or two types of mayfly insects happening during a spinner fall. We have the adult spinner, Mago, whose wings are in this direction. And we have the spent spinner, which wings are flattened out and laying on the water dead. Well, trout will prefer to eat the dead ones over that of the adult ones, and the reasons are very, very logical and very scientific to some degree, in the sense that spinners don't lay on the water, they don't float on the water, they just tap on the water. They just tap on the water. And it's not till that final egg laying event happens that they will die and lay out. So consequently, during a spinner fall, you want to have spent spinners or dead spinners. Spent spinners and a dead spinner is the same thing. You want to have those in your fly box, because that's what trout will be feeding on. They're not on the water for 1/10 of a second. They're on the water, dead, and they'll be on that water forever if they're not eaten. Okay, so how does this pertain to you, the angler? I'm not telling you you can't use an adult spinner, dry fly, to catch fish. What I'm going to tell you is you'll catch more by using the dead spinner or the spent spinner. I don't even have adult spinners in any of my mayfly boxes. I have the duns and the mergers, and I have spent spinners or patterns where the wings lay out. Now, you'll see those in two different types of patterns. You'll see them with a white poly wing that's like that, and you'll see them with a clear plastic wing like this. I prefer the plastic wings because they're a little more realistic. How to go about putting that mayfly, a dead mayfly, in front of a rising trout is what fly fishing is all about. And that's where your skill of this thing really is the difference between catching a lot of fish and some fish. And I'll tell you, during a spinner fall, these fish will get, they'll get fish drunk. They'll get punch drunk, bug drunk. And you can put that fly in front of fish, you can walk up on these trout, and you're not going to spook them at all. So spinner falls are something that we all as anglers want to see, and when we do see them, okay, and we see fish rising, but we can't see any mayflies on the water, but we see spinners in the air, and we see fish rising, okay, they're eating those dead spinners, and it pays for you to put on a spent spinner. Now, over the last 30 years, I pumped a lot of trout stomachs, and typically I'll do it during a spinner fall, and the results of that is, in all the years I've been doing that, I've never seen an adult spinner with the wings up like this in a trout stomach. They're always the dead ones. So from a logical standpoint and a scientific standpoint, it makes more sense to be going to a spinner fall with a good selection of spent spinners. So for all you new fishermen or guys out there who've been fishing for a couple of years, hopefully this helps you. And for all you old fish hobos like me, hopefully you'll get a nugget out of this. Either way, I hope I see you on the river. That I want to do.